This is the first of a very different video, part of a new series where we're going to be going behind the scenes to reveal the stories, lives and artistic journeys of some of those artist names that we know very well from social media. Today we are going to be in the studio of an amazingly talented animal artist called Becky Gouverneur. I will spell that, and I know how to pronounce it right because it's Dutch and I need to get a h in the Gouverneur. But I'm going to put all the links to Bex's social media, website, everything as well. So I'm going to be showing you some of her work as we go through Bex's story. So then we're going to go on to a tour of her studio, which I have like real studio envy for, but it's just an idea. I know when I do workshops I tell my own story. I know my story's on my website, and a lot of people that get in touch with me via email, most weeks I get messages, emails, people connect with my own personal story, and a lot of us have been through something in our lives that changes it dramatically. Something comes out of the blue and we're almost forced to change. With myself it was mental health issues, personal breakdown, things like that. I was forced into a position with I needed to change, and I know a lot of you guys are the same. This is to show you that positive things can come from those situations that we have no control over, and it's about giving you sort of I don't know, inspiration, positivity, support wherever you are on your own personal journey, and I'm hoping some of the stories that we're going to be hearing from some of these artists help you. I know they help me, and I hope they help many others. So this is going to be Becky's story. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you get to see. We've done a few outtakes on this video and you're going to see the reason why in a little bit as well. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy watching the video. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to the wonderful Becky, and Becky's just going to tell us a little bit first of all about her journey as an artist, how long she's been drawing, how she started out, and what exciting things have brought her to this point today.
So I've been working as a professional artist for 4 years. Before I was various other careers. I did textile design at university, and then straight out of university I was a professional photographer for 8 years, and I had my own studio in South Bucks in the UK. I did mainly people, fashion, bit of alternative stuff as well. It's quite good fun. So after 8 years of taking pictures of models who their worst problem in the whole world was that they looked fat in this and they were a size 4, I got a bit jaded with it all and decided that I wanted to have a career change and do something that would actually help people. So I joined the police force, and I spent 5 years working as a police officer. I only left the police force because I met my would-be husband, who was Dutch, and I went and moved to Holland, and I lived in Holland for 2 years, and have my first child, Jack, who's now 9 nearly next week on Saturday. So we had him, and I eventually, after 2 years of sitting around being a mum, which was really not my kind of thing, I decided I wanted to get back into work, and that teaching would be a good compromise because I really missed my creative side. When I was a photographer, obviously I was being very creative, and I missed that from the 5 years being in the police. So I decided that I wanted to try and help people and have a creative career. So teaching was the obvious answer to that. So I came back to the UK to train, because if I did it in Holland, first off I would have had to have paid a lot more, and second it would have had to have been in Dutch, and my Dutch is not that good, although it's reasonable. So I came back to the UK to train to teach, and I qualified as an art teacher, and then I taught in schools, secondary schools. I taught in art, photography and textiles. So I finally brought all my creative things together. And then, it's got a sad bit now, so brace yourselves. It was 4 years ago now, when that ended. I was pregnant with my second son, 7 months pregnant, when my mum and dad were on holiday in Scotland, and they were hit by a motorcyclist, and the car burst into flames, and sadly my dad couldn't get out and he passed away. It was a bit of a life-changing situation. Obviously I live in the same town as my parents and I'm very, very close to them, and it made me reassess what I was doing. I was teaching full-time, and that's a 60-hour-a-week job. I barely saw my kids because I'd get home at 6 o'clock, absolutely exhausted, and then have to do marking all evening and at weekends, and yeah, it wasn't a great work-life balance. So obviously I went off maternity leave early because I had to go up to Scotland where the accident was, and my mum was in hospital as well at the time. So I had a big break from work, went off maternity early and had a lot of time to reassess. After the accident, quite a few months after the accident, a friend of mine came round who I hadn't seen since school, a long time ago. And he sat on my sofa and he looked above my fireplace, and there was a drawing there that I'd done when I was at university. And he says, "Oh, you can draw, can't you?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm an art teacher. I hope so, because otherwise I'd be a bit of a rubbish art teacher." He's like, "Did you draw that?" I was like, "Yeah, I drew that when I was 18. It's quite a long time ago." And he said, "Oh, could you do me a picture of my 2 dogs for my wife for Christmas as a surprise?" And I said, "Yeah, all right, okay, I'll do that." He says, "I'll pay you." I'm like, "Brilliant, could do with some money, I'm on maternity leave." So I did a picture of his boxer and his lab, which I'll dig out for you so you can have a look at it. That was 4.5 years ago now, and he stuck it on Facebook when it was given to her. Obviously it was a surprise, so we kept it till afterwards. And I thought I was in the money because he gave me 50 quid and it was massive. So I was like, yes, I can do this, brilliant. And they stuck it on Facebook, and I had inquiries after inquiries after inquiries, and within 3 or 4 months I had a waiting list. And I thought, well, I'll do some more because I'm on maternity leave, and maybe I should go part-time as a teacher, and then I could do more of this because it's quite good fun. So I contacted the school and I said, you know, given the fact that my mum is bipolar, has been in a major car accident, her husband's been killed and she needs a lot of support, and the fact that I'm not really in a mental place to be working full-time, would it be possible for me to go part-time? And they said no. So I quit. After discussing with my husband about the ins and outs of it, I said, well, financially I need £150 a month to break even as a family on top of his wage. And I said, if I don't make that 1 month, I'll go and do supply the next month, supply teaching. So like, you know, for schools ad hoc when the teachers are sick. There's quite a lot of that work because teachers go sick a lot because they have stress. I never did supply because from the point where I quit, I had almost continuous commission work. I was super cheap at the beginning, so looking back on it, I think, you know, that really helped. I was charging for, I think, I don't know, I'll find my old price list, but really not very much for small images. But I was building it up as I went, and my prices increased gradually along with my skill. So, and I look back, and I'm sure we've probably edited in the picture of the lab and the boxer by now. You can see the difference between that and my current work, and my prices matched that as I've progressed. So yeah, that was 4 years ago that I made that leap. 4 years back in March, I think it was, that I officially quit. So I had nothing. I had a big piece of A1 drawing board, and I was sat on my living room floor with some odd bits of charcoal that I found up in my bedroom, and I drew pictures, and that was it, until the baby started crawling, at which point I needed to buy myself an easel. So I looked online and I found a beautiful Winsor & Newton easel, which you will see when you do a pan round of my studio. And if you hear some odd scratching noises, that's my dog. So you'll see her as well. She's now flaked out. She's my studio assistant and chief foot warmer in the winter. So anyway, yeah, I started off on the floor, then had an easel, and then it got to winter time, and I thought, oh, I know, I've got like commissions to do, and the lights going, because I used to work in the living room, and it's big south-facing window, so it was beautiful. So I thought, oh, right, I'll invest in a studio, a daylight lamp, and I thought, oh, it's quite expensive, £85, I think it was, something like that. Going out, it's a big investment, go and buy a studio lamp. But it was brilliant. It was one of the best things that I ever bought because it increased my working hours massively. So then I had that. And then at this point, the baby was in, so we have a 3-bedroom house. My husband and I's, my room, my eldest son, Jack's room, and the baby's room. I got more and more commissions, and I had stuff littered around the living room, which wasn't great. And so I spoke to my husband and I said, do you think we could put the boys in together? So we put the boys in together. Jack loved it. He loved his brother anyway. So so the boys went into the big room and I took over the small, very small box single room downstairs. And that's where I worked for the majority of what I did, so about 3 years or so, until the beginning of last year. Yeah, about February last year, where I'm starting to do exhibitions and shows, and I have stock, and I do prints, and I do cards, and I have photography equipment. And every time I wanted to photograph my work, because I photograph my own work for myself and for other artists as well, whenever I wanted to photograph my own work, I had to get all my studio lights, drag them downstairs, set them up in the living room, take the photo. Like, setting them up takes about half an hour. Take the photo takes about 30 seconds, and then have to pack them all down again, drag them back upstairs, put them away, and it was a faff. So I spoke to my husband and I said, look, I've got now, I think at that point I had about a 2-year waiting list or something like that. I've got enough work coming in that we can start to think about where I'm going to move to, because this little tiny box room is really restricting me. I've got some photos. I'll find some photos of this old box room and my studio in there, and you'll see what I mean. I literally had my table and my chair, and then there was boxes all around me. I couldn't move anywhere. I couldn't do anything. And if I wanted to mount some prints, I had to put all my stuff away and then get all the prints out, mount them, and then put it all away again. And then it was just an absolute nightmare. So I said, I've got 2 choices. I can go and find a business premises for a studio, which would be great, because then, you know, I can have public to my studio and open up for art weeks and things like that. Or we could look at getting a loft conversion. Initially, when I said loft conversion, I had in my head we would have this as our bedroom, and I would have the smaller single, like it's double bedroom downstairs as my studio. And my husband's like, oh yeah, loft conversion sounds good, look into it and let's see how much it is. It wasn't until a few months later that I realised that he thought I could have the whole loft conversion as my studio, which is what ended up happening. So we looked into it, it was financially viable. I was lucky enough that when my dad passed away, I'm just going to get the bone off the dog. Oh, she's picked it up now, so it's really rattly. I was lucky enough that when my dad passed away, I got some money off that, so it sort of offset part of this loft conversion. So we booked it in, took 6 months wait to get it, the builders, before they could do it, and then it was finally complete in December last year. So I am going to get the bone. Dog bone. So I've been working up here for about 6 months now. And it is absolutely life-changing. So not only can I have my prints out and I have a dedicated place for that, I've got my computer desk, I've got a drawing desk, I've got space for all my stock. I can have a full-sized photography studio up here, so if I have a very nervous cat or something that I need to photograph, we can do it in the studio. I can also photograph my own work. I outsource the photography and scanning for other artists as well. And it doubles up as a studio because Lisa slept here last night. So it's been a dramatic change.
And I know, Becky, we were talking as well sort of about the decision you made to convert it into, you know, the loft and keep it as integral part of the house, as opposed to having a custom build, because you've got a huge garden. You could have had a custom built studio in the garden, and you had reasons behind that as well.
Yeah, so having the loft conversion has actually added value to the house as well. So we're a win-win now. I haven't really lost the money, whereas if you have a custom built place down the garden, yes, it'll increase the value of the house, but not to the extent that this does. We now have this grand master bedroom at the top of our house, which if we ever wanted to sell, means that, you know, it would be an incredibly great selling point. You could easily put an ensuite up here or make it into 2 bedrooms. It's really flexible.
Win-win.
Yeah.
And is there any cons that you see against sort of, obviously, I know you mentioned that you could have gone for a space that's got, you know, public access. Does this inhibit a little, or
a little bit?
But the pros far outweigh, obviously, I think, the cons anyway.
To have public come up here, I need to have special insurance. I need to have permission from my mortgage company. I need to have permission from the council. I can't run big workshops up here. There's certain limitations within the legal side of things, and also it's my house, so I don't want to do open studios up here where you open up the doors, because people will be traipsing in and out, and I've got kids and cats and dogs and all sorts of things. So there are certain restrictions, but you know, I can escape up here and no one knows where I am.
and I think it's the same with everything to do with being a creative. It's finding that balance. You've created a safe space, a creative space, a sanctuary, I guess. It really
is a sanctuary,
And to be honest, I know if you're the same as me, sort of, you're quite happy if you don't see people from day to day.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, you've got your studio assistant. I've got 4 or 5 that traipse into mine. So yeah, I can see far more pros with this, and I've been following the story of your studio coming together and the creation, and I think, like I say, I think I'm fair in saying that, you know, there's a lot of us artists that do have studio envy with this, but we are also, on the flip side, extremely happy that, you know, you've achieved this, and it shows me and others out there what's possible.
Yeah, definitely. And
you can dream it, but it's a reality as well.
It's 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years I've been doing it, and I've gone from drawing on my living room floor to having my own studio space. It's totally doable. Totally. And there's no reason why, the only reason why Lisa wouldn't do it is because she might move house. But, you know, if you had a house that you're going to stay in, then make the most of it. We were lucky that the loft was so perfect to convert as well. A lot of houses aren't. And, you know, that was just a bonus. Originally, when we looked at it, I envisaged just having a couple of like Velux windows in the roof and just having it like as it was without the big dormer. And then when they came up and they said, "Oh, you realise you could have a full length dormer across here and it'd only be another £5 grand." I'm like, "You what now?" All right then. You'll see in a second.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's it really.
Okay, thank you very much. And what we'll do now is then we'll just do a little pan around the room, and Bex will just explain sort of where she works, what she gets up to, and maybe reveal some plans for the future. We shall, or maybe not, we shall see. Okay, thank you. Our studio assistant beckons us into the studio. Okay, so we're just going to do a little tour now of the actual studio.
So all of my bookshelves, this is all of the reference and things that I do for my workshops, and massive art books. I basically moved all my art books upstairs when I moved here. Printer papers, this was my old scanner up here that I was using until a few months ago when I upgraded to a really cool one. Storage.
And this is where, if you're really lucky, you can come and stay and crash.
Yes. Really comfy sofa.
Double whammy. I'm just going to come in. Studio assistant. Zelda, there's a good girl. Oh, she's smiling for this camera, but she won't smile to have her reference photo taken. Okay. So we've got...
Behind those doors there that you can see, we've got the storage, the rest of the loft, which is really handy.
Fabulous lighting as well, all this down lighting that you've got, which just disperses the light, you know, sort of evenly around the room. Okay.
So in the corner, the studio lights and the background, if I'm taking photos of work, so large work, I set up on the easel and then I photograph with studio lights. And then you can see my easel that I got when I first moved into being a proper artist. And my beautiful planchette drawers.
Oh, I know.
Lisa has envy.
I have envy of these as well. I would love this kind of storage and this kind of room.
It's really good as well because that's my clean area. So if I'm mounting prints, I have that to just do it wherever, and all my mounts and everything live in the drawers underneath.
And here's your sexy new scanner.
My beautiful new scanner. It's very exciting. We're going to play with that later.
And of course you've also got beautiful views up here. You're right up high, so that it gives a lovely creative feeling as well, doesn't it?
And one of the best things, and why we thought this would be perfect for the studio, is it's north facing windows. So it's no direct sunlight.
And this is where all the magic happens?
This is my drawing chair and my work table. Yeah. And underneath is where my dog...
Ah, yeah, most important space in the room.
Foot warmer.
Here's Zelda space.
Yeah.
Go in your bed, darling. Bye.
In your bed. In your bed. Go on. No. They never do what they're told.
Zelda, are you a good girl? This is the studio assistant, Zelda, and she also keeps Becky's feet warm in the winter.